So we'll call this meeting to order. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chambers is open for public attendance in person. However, councillors and members of the public may still join meetings remotely using our current teleconference process. If the meeting is recessed, callers will be put on hold and until the meeting reconvenes, with the exception at noon where callers will be asked to call back in. This helps with call quality. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and may be uploaded to the website and/or social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. We also ask all attendees to mute their devices to reduce disruptions to the meeting. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per section or MGA section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. So there may be some councillors participating remotely today. So what we'll do is we'll call a roll call vote at the beginning of the meeting. So Councillor Laprise.
Present.
Councillor Bigger.
Here.
Councillor Eichert.
Present.
Reeve Link. Reeve Link might not be on the line. Deputy Reeve Clausen. Not on the line. Oh, is he? Okay. Yes, we can. Deputy Reeve Clausen, thank you. Councillor Kester.
Here.
Councillor Larson.
Here.
Perfect. Okay, so we have the adoption of the agenda. Administration would like to add section 1.3 selection of chair. And the reason for the selection of chair today is that the, whoops, just have that up. Just one moment. Section 40 of our procedure bylaw states, an acting chair presides over the council meeting as the chair when both the Reeve and Deputy Reeve are unable to perform the position's duties. The acting chair has all the same powers and responsibilities under this bylaw when presiding as the chair. So the chair must be in person. That's part of our procedure bylaw. An acting chair is chosen by consensus by members of council in attendance or, if required, by resolution of the members in attendance. If the chief administrative officer will act as chair until the acting chair is appointed. Hence why I'm acting as chair to start this meeting. So administration's proposing to add 1.3 to the agenda. Administration is also proposing just the time change on the in-camera items. So typically we do that at the end of the meeting, just hoping to do that one before lunch. So let's say maybe schedule that for 11:30. Okay. Do all of council, does council have access to all of eScribe this morning? I know all members here. Deputy Reeve Clausen, would you have access to eScribe?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other adopt or changes to the agenda? Councillor Larson?
I'd like to move that the in-camera session item, Wheatland Housing Management Body Board resignation, there's no need for that to be in camera, particularly given the report, and I'll put that in quotation marks, that person gave at the last meeting, which the Reeve did nothing to question. There's nothing in there that hasn't already been spoken in public, so I see absolutely no reason for that to be in camera.
So just, this is awkward just because I am the chair, but administration's reasoning for putting that into the in-camera session would just be the personnel matters. The letter would be a public document, of course, the resignation letter. So there really, in my opinion, won't be any discussion on that. It's more of just a path forward for council on what council chooses to do with that additional space.
And again, I would say, why does that need to be in camera? If it's just a path forward that needs to be discussed here.
Well, council could choose to leave it open in open session. That's definitely the prerogative of council for sure. If council does have any members that they're wishing to bring forward, then that would be different. So that's typically why the personnel thing, from administration's view anyways, would be in camera.
Correct, but we're not selecting a new person right now. We're just talking about a resignation letter.
Yeah, just, again, so awkward addressing because I'm the chair, but administration's viewpoint on that would just be council does need to choose a path forward. Either it's do nothing or choose another person, the process of it. So whatever council chooses to do, in camera, out of camera, whatever council chooses to do, so be it. Oh, Councillor Kester.
How about we don't put it in camera, and if council chooses to discuss it and it's in camera issue, we can move into camera then. But just for a resignation, if there's no discussion, it's public knowledge now.
Okay, so just a question to Councillor Larson and Councillor Kester. I'm just trying to think of the best spot to put this on the agenda. Perhaps 9.1, would that be your amendment? Yeah. Just under. Perfect, okay. So Councillor Larson or Kester, which one would like to make a motion to amend the agenda for 1.3, 9.1, and then I didn't hear the other one have an issue with the moving that one to 11:30. So would either one of you like to make a motion to amend the agenda? Councillor Larson?
I'll move that we amend the agenda to include 1.3 selection of chair and move the closed session Wheatland Housing Management Body to 9.1 new business. Did I miss one?
And then the 11:30 and.
Oh, and to move closed camera to 11:30, right, sorry.
Okay. All right, any discussion on the motion? All right, so please vote on e-scribe if possible. I'll call the question. Thank you. Oh, okay. So we'll do a roll call vote then. So I'll start with Councillor Laprise.
In favor.
Councillor Bigger.
In favor.
Councillor Reichert.
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen. Councillor Kester. Councillor Larson.
In favor.
Motion is carried. Okay, so we will move to 1.3, selection of chair. So section 40 of the procedure bylaw, as noted that if council did come to consensus that they could select a chair without a motion, if there is not consensus, then the members of council present would vote on the chair. Would council have a consensus on who the chair could be? Or any volunteers?
I'd put my name forward if council approves.
Is everyone okay with that? All members of council? Yeah, 2 nods. Reichert and Bigger, okay. All right, sounds good. So I'll pass the duties of the chair over to Councillor Laprise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, continuing on then, are there any council notices of motion arising this meeting? Hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 3, bylaw readings and public hearings. Stefan.
Morning, Council. Stefan Kuntz presenting on behalf of administration. This is bylaw 2025-19, which is an update to the Subdivision Development Appeal Board, or SDAB bylaw. You may recall from the Committee of the Whole meeting on November 19th, 2024, administration brought forward some revisions regarding the board's membership and overall board composition, largely related to some difficulties securing the adequate number of members within the board for them to fulfill their function. So the committee wanted us to look at that and some other areas of the bylaw. We've done that and submitted the document for legal review. Through those reviews, we've determined that a number of the sections were redundant, many of them within the Municipal Government Act, some were procedural in nature, and some in need of further clarification. So the red line that's in the document in the report here, you'll see there are a number of changes. This summary of amendments section here, that kind of goes through what each section is doing, kind of in a broader area. And then just some areas to bring your attention to are these four here. So regarding telecommunications, signing, membership, flexibility, and having a ad hoc membership. So what those sections are, in terms of the telecommunication thing, that's just adding the ability to do the appeals by video conference. The signing, before I just referred to the chairperson being the one that could sign. This is essentially if they can't make it, whoever presided over the hearing, they would be the one who could sign it. 9. So this is the one that relates to the composition of the board itself. So currently the bylaw allows for or requires a minimum of 5, maximum of 7 members. So we're proposing revising that down to 3. And then also changing the membership requirement. Previously it was just landowners, but this would allow landowners or residents of Wheatland County to serve on the board. And then, yes.
4H says all members shall adhere to the code of conduct, which we don't have.
Okay.
Yeah, that would just we could just strike that whole H. Yeah.
Yes, we can do that. And then just moving on to the final thing of note here, which is just adding kind of a sort of a temporary ad hoc members. This is essentially if we can't meet that minimum of 3 with our existing board members, then we could bring in sort of a pinch hitter to fill that final requirement. So the other item I mentioned was the procedures, largely removing some of those sections that aren't necessarily relevant. So what we've done is created a procedure manual to support the bylaw. This will be provided to SCB members and put on the county's website, obviously contingent on approval of the bylaw here today. So that concludes my presentation. We are recommending approval bylaw 2025-19, and I'm available for questions should you have any. Thank you.
Any other questions, Council? Councillor Larson.
I'll move that we approve bylaw, what's its name, with amendment.
Bylaw 2025-19. I had one question that I just, for my own knowledge, could a developer become a member of a STAB?
Through the chair, yes. There is a section on membership requirements.
It doesn't exclude that, and I was just curious if that would be a conflict. If developer was.
I mean, I suppose it could be if it was. I think they would have to fulfill like their same. If it was a situation where they were hearing their own hearing, one of the questions they could recuse themselves, and that probably would be the ethical thing to do. One of the things that they ask at the beginning of a hearing is, does anybody have any concerns with a particular board member serving on it? So if somebody's appealing an item and they say, well, the person who's actually doing it is sitting there, if it was me appealing, I would say, yes, I have a concern with that person being on there.
Okay, so there's a way around it, basically.
That's correct, yeah.
Procedure, okay. Okay, thank you for that.
Just a comment, I guess that would be with realtors too. They could have quite a bit more biased.
Through the chair, yes. And again, they would just have to exercise that discretion.
So then just further to Councillor Larson, I did note that there's that code of conduct, and it also in the it's in the definitions. Code of conduct on page 17. It just need to come out of the definitions as well. And then
I have a question about the code of conduct.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor or Deputy Reef.
Thank you. I think the code of conduct can stay. It's just the actions taken. From my understanding of what the province has done, we still as council have a code of conduct. We just have no recourse to enforce them. But I think it's a good idea to still have that in there for people serving on boards and whatnot. It's ethical, I think.
It's been repealed.
Just through the chair. So at this point, there is no code of conduct in the province. So I think the province is going to have some sort of mechanism in the future. I think they're probably going to take it back in house, but at this point, there is no code of conduct that can be really referenced with any sort of documentation. So it most likely it should be removed. That would just, the reasons in there is just an administrative oversight.
I note that for council, in our procedure manual, we have a sort of a code of conduct that just says how we are meant to act in a council meeting. So maybe the SDAB board would have a similar thing in their procedure bylaw, procedure manual, just to say that you, take turns speaking and you are respectful of each other and that kind of thing. So it's probably in there somewhere. And so, I don't mind. I think it could probably be taken out of this bylaw.
Question to administration. Once province brings back the rules, that will be added to these, because there has to be some sort of a mention or code of conduct, even just if it's just fiduciary and that kind of stuff, right? Because it's, you have to have, there has to be rules governing civil discourse.
Yeah, so through the chair, that legislation would like supersede our bylaws. So kind of like the way I think of it is that like the MGA supersedes all of our bylaws. So if our bylaws don't mention something specific in the MGA, that's okay, because we would have to follow that legislation anyway. So assuming whatever the province does choose to put into the future becomes a bill, that bill would supersede all of our bylaws anyway. So councils or members of boards must adhere to like bills and legislation.
I had just two other small comments just on editorial, I guess. Section 5.1, the second sentence says council may reappoint members for additional terms following their initial appointment. And then 5.3 basically says the same thing. So I don't know whether we want to remove one of those. And to be very picky then, 5.4, if a member ceases to be a member prior to completion of their term of appointment, I would remove if council chooses to fill such vacancy, because you say council may appoint. So that's exactly if they choose to. You sort of just redundantly saying the same thing.
And through the chair, sorry, that was 5B and F. And then
Well,
which was the
for
other
the
one?
new one, it would be 5.1 and 5.3 on page 18. If you look at the non-red line version, it's easier to see. 5.1 and 5.3.
So you're suggesting just strike 5.3?
Yes.
Okay. And sorry, what was the other?
I would strike in 5.4 the part it says if council chooses to fill such vacancy.
Okay.
And just a point from administration, there do seem to be a number of edits. So this bylaw isn't pertinent for us to pass. There's no like rush on administration side for urgency. So perhaps we could just get all of the edits today and then bring those edits, maybe pass one reading. If council doesn't want to pass any readings, that's also okay. And then we can just bring it back in August. There's nothing like pressing or urgent. We'd rather just get it right and then just have one reading or 0 readings and go forward that way. Thank you.
Counselor Larson, would you how would you feel about just amending your,
Well, first of all, I'll take what's his name off and put 2025 XX because that's kind of what's his name. And I would be fine with amending it to where we only have first reading today and then allow administration to make the edits that have been brought forth today for future reading at the August, what? 17th? Seems to, the next August council meeting.
so you'll move first reading as amended? Is that,
Correct.
thanks. Okay, are there any other comments or questions or suggestions? Hearing none, I'll call the question on that motion. I have to call, yes. Counselor Bigger,
In favor.
Counselor Eichert,
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen,
I'm in favor.
Counselor Kester,
In favor.
and Counselor Larson.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That motion is passed. So we agree to just let administration bring that back. Oh, yeah, that was in your motion, so that's good. Beautiful. We'll move on. Thank you, Stefan.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is our consent agenda. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anybody wanted to pull out, or are we happy to? Counselor Larson,
I think we have to do first reading.
pardon me?
I think we have to do first reading, don't we? Yeah,
Just reading.
before we move on.
It was carried. We voted.
Well, that counts as first reading carried? Oh, okay, my mistake.
All right. Anybody want anything removed from the consent agenda? Otherwise, council's wishes. Counselor Bigger,
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda with no changes.
thank you very much. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Counselor Bigger,
In favor.
Counselor Eichert,
In favor.
Deputy Reed Clausen,
I'm in favor.
Counselor Kester,
In favor.
Counselor Larson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That's passed. Okay, counselor reports and related business. So beginning with the Reeves report, I think normally we would ask somebody to move her report as presented, and if anybody had questions, we could hold them till next meeting. Would somebody be prepared to?
I have a question. We have an email from
Oh.
Reeve about a ratification.
mhm.
And would this be the proper time to, I'll move the date she wants ratified.
Okay,
I-
let's do her report first and then we'll
Okay.
do that if that's.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Perfect.
since I've introduced the report. Is that appropriate?
We should have had it added at the start. I just forgot, omitted that thing. But if council's okay with adding it, if not, we just wait till the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Counselor Larson?
I think we should just wait till our next meeting and then the Reeve can speak to those meetings. That's a lot of meetings.
All right, we'll do that. Would somebody mind moving Reeve Link's report as presented?
I'll make that, I'll move Reeve Link's report.
Thank you, Counselor Eichert. Any questions? I'll call the question. Counselor Bigger,
In favor.
Counselor Eichert,
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen,
I'm in favor.
Counselor Kester,
Favor.
Counselor Larson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. Thank you very much. Next will be Deputy Reeves' report.
Thank you. My report's in the package. If there's any questions, I can answer them. If not, I will move them as presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions? for Deputy Reeve Clausen. Not, I'll call the question. Counselor Bigger,
In favor.
Eichert,
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen,
In favor.
Counselor Kester,
Favor.
Counselor Larson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. Okay. Then my report is next on the agenda. It's on page 58 of the package. The only thing I really wanted to highlight was in our WRC meeting last month, we had a presentation from the Village of Standard. They're applying for a municipal energy generation program grant to install some solar panels for their operations and any of their community, the community hall and the arena and the library and all those sorts of things. And they've also identified that WRC could be included in it. And so they gave us a presentation of what their plan is. They are not, their plan is not contingent on WRC participating. But it seems like a pretty good program, actually. The grant covers 30 to 45% of the project. We consume, or our cost for electricity is about $44,000 a year.
Is being recorded.
So in about, they've given us rough numbers that it would take about 6 years to pay it off, and then we would be in a position of just paying for like the administrative costs of electricity, plus, of course, when you're not generating, you'd be purchasing it from a supplier. So the question that the board has for that administration is, right now we have really good electricity rates, and if we were to break our contract and then get new rates, what would that look like? And so it might add time onto that. And so we haven't made a decision yet. Our administration is going to come with some more analysis. And I think we're going to have a special meeting likely in July to decide they want to move on this, because the grant has so much money in it. And once the money's gone, it's not available until a new one is created or whatever. So just to let people know, that's what we are thinking about at that board. And just during June, I've attended lots of great community events, including the Gleason Bronc Battle and the Cluny PBR event. And both of those have done, amazing job and show incredible community spirit. And funds raised at the Cluny Lions PBR are going to the Strathmore Hospital Auxiliary. So they're doing great things in the community, and I appreciate that very much. So with that, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer, but otherwise I'll move my report as presented. Any questions? I'll call the question. Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Councillor Larson.
In favor.
And I'm in favor, so that's carried. I will move on to Division 3 Councillor report.
Yeah, my report is on the package. I just want to, the only thing maybe would be that the developer from Lyalta, from Chapel Rock Developers, I toured him around Speargrass, introduced him to the Speargrass owners. They have similar development with golf course and residents. And then we also went to the CGC plant and introduced him to the managers there. And with that, I will move my report as presented.
Thank you very much. Any questions? I'll call the question. Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Councillor Larson.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That's carried. Next on our agenda is a notice of motion from Councillor Bigger regarding decorative signs for CGC.
Yes, this was brought forward as a notice of motion last council meeting. I'll just read the motion and answer any questions. That council, I would like to move that the council approve the creation of 2 decorative street signs to be presented to CGC Incorporated as a congratulations for the expansion of their facility into Wheatland County.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any discussion, questions? Councillor Kester?
Are we actually renaming a road? Or is this just something that are gonna hang on their wall?
No, we're not going to rename the road because it's because we're on the grid. It's too hard for GPS, Google, all that. So we just put we put up signs. The township road would still be there. Number.
So it would be on the street sign. It's not for just on their wall. It's on the street sign, but it'll say township 230, whatever
Yeah.
it is. And then, but underneath there'll be a sign that says
CJ
CDJ
was the way.
Way.
Same sign,
I believe.
post?
Yes. So how this came about is that for every new facility that they've built in whatever area they're in, they've the municipality or the area, however it's governed, has actually named the road, and the plant employees and managers get to name it. So because we're on the grid system here in Alberta and it's very rural, that wasn't really the recommendation from me or from staff. So we settled on a decorative sign to go with the post.
We've had requests before to rename roads,
It's not a renaming though.
put signs up. And actually council says take the signs down. I don't want to start something because we've got a lot of developments in the county that are probably just as big, or and we're going to rename a road. I don't mind a sign. I don't know if I would agree with it on the corner post, same as the rest either. I'm just being considerate of all the other people that have developed in the county that are fairly large. I don't want to set precedent.
Councillor Larson and then Councillor Eichert.
That would be my concern too, not so much, I'm not necessarily opposed to the sign, but when we set precedent, so we do this for CGC, then what about all the ones we haven't done it for and all the future developments, de Havilland Way or whatever else comes up in the future. I just see this as something that could get out of hand.
I think we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that they're investing over $200 million in the area. And the other thing is, we're not changing a road, we're just putting a sign up, so it's no different than 13 Mile Corner, which is an intersection of something. I have no idea, but I know where 13 Mile Corner is. It's just, it'll be a local thing that if I'm a truck driver, I'm driving down the road and the company tells me that turn it CGC way and go down that road, or they could tell me to turn down 235. I've got no problems with this. I can't imagine if you want to set a limit on it, if the business is less than $200 million and we don't do it, it seems a little bit silly to me. I think this is a good way to show our respect to the company. So I'm good with this.
I was there when when they were talking about naming what name to use. That the employees were very excited. They felt a big involvement. They're developing or developing the road, paving the road now, so it's under construction. And I like the idea and the fact that it's part of their company history. They've hired so many local people. It's amazing. And I would like to show the appreciation too. So I'll call my motion to a vote.
I'll just I'll just say, well, Deputy Reeve Clausen, did you have anything to add?
Yes, thank you. I don't have a problem with this. It's not renaming the road. It is giving it some recognition. If we haven't done it in the past, that's fine. We can always change things, and if people want to upgrade their signs in the future, I have no problem with the bigger players that have contributed to this county and employed people for many years. I can think of a few, I won't name them, that might want that as well, and I would have no problem doing the same. Like, just because we haven't done it in the past doesn't mean we can't change our ways. So I'm definitely in support of this. Thank you.
I'll also be supporting it just for the same reason, just the fact that we're not renaming a road, we're just putting up a decorative sign. And if any others came to us with that request, I think we could hear it and decide. So I will call the question. Councillor Bigger,
In favor?
Councillor Eichert,
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen,
I'm in favor.
Councillor Castor,
I'm opposed in principle.
Councillor
That I'm opposed to. It's just, out.
Councillor Larson.
Same thing. I'm opposed in principle of this.
I'm in favor. That is carried. All right, our next notice of motion, also from Councillor Bigger, having to do with vicious dog animal control bylaw.
Yeah. I'd like to move that council direct administration to review the vicious dog section of bylaw 2020-17 animal control bylaw. We had a fairly major dog incident where it caused surgery to a grown woman. My concern is that I guess we just want to look the bylaw over and make sure that we're covering residents for things like this that happened. And there seems to be more and more of it. There was like right after that, another one in Speargrass. So if we could bring it back and take a look at that bylaw and make sure we're protecting people. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions, comments? Councillor Larson.
I would just, if we can, ask the bylaw officer if he thinks there's a need for this, or if we have enough in our current bylaw to take care of this. I'm certainly not opposed if there's a need for it, but I'd just like to see that the current bylaw is deficient in some way for this type of action.
Justin Valley, Manager of Protective Services. Through the chair, I do believe there's a couple places we could shore it up on. The specifics to that one, we've already taken steps to better protect citizens in a situation like that. In that particular case, it was primarily to do with not having ability to house a dog and get it, and we've since corrected that. So there's always an opportunity to open the bylaw, and I have a couple suggestions about things that we can do. I've already been working on that for a little bit. So yeah, I do think that it's worth bringing it in front of council.
That's all I needed to know.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Any other questions? I'll call the question. Councillor Bigger,
In favor?
Councillor Eichert,
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'm in favor, but I have a comment as well.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just put our head thinking caps on here, because if you're a rancher or a farmer and you have a dog that comes in and attacks your herd, bylaw usually isn't involved. I'm not going to say what happens, but we have people that are getting attacked by dogs, and we have this whole system that's not really helping people out when it needs to. So I'm not saying we go that extreme that way, but it definitely needs to be reviewed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kester,
In favor.
Councillor Larson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That is carried. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to Division 4 Council Report. Councillor Eichert.
Yes, my report is on the server. I think the only thing I want to highlight is I was at we had a ASB tour planning meeting. And I am really, really excited for the potential. We have got a lot of stuff happening, and the staff is doing an amazing job on it. And I can't wait. So thank you for that. And if you have any questions on my report, I'll be more than glad to answer them. If not, I will move my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions? I'll call the question. Councillor Bigger,
In favor?
Councillor Eichert,
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen,
In favor.
Councillor Kester,
In favor.
Councillor Larson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That's carried. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda, from Division 4, proposed Range Road 253 speed limit reduction.
Yes, I'll,
Eichert,
there's a 2 mile section of road between Glenmore Trail and Highway Township Road 240. And the road is 253. It's a amalgam of chip seal, gravel, and the problem is it's quite a tight road because it used to be an old the irrigation canal used to run down there, so there's an awful lot of trees and all that kind of stuff. I've had concerns from a couple of neighbors that the speed limit on it is too fast, and if you do drive it at 80, it is a rough road. They do not. I get the sense that they do not want to upgrade that road because it would be an absolute, like it would be a good road to look at, to put on the schedule for MRO, but I don't think they want to do it because they want to keep the traffic down as much as possible. There are 20 residences on that road right now on that that 2 mile section of road. There's another couple of subdivisions we've approved them, so there'll be upwards of 24 residences on that road. And I believe that this makes sense in the fact that it doesn't matter where you live on that road. The furthest you're going to have to drive is one mile off of a paved road. So depending on which side the road is, would be the road, the way you come in. And what I'm hoping to do on this is to get first reading, and then we circulate, and then then we can get all the people, which will save me from pounding doors. So that's why I brought this forward, that if we could get first reading on this, and then we could do circulation, administration could do circulation on it. And if they say, no, we don't want it, 80's fine, then I'm good with 80. But I've had concerns I've had people concerned on both ends about the speed limit on that road, and they'd like to slow people down. So hence why I've done this. Can I make that motion now that we do first reading on, or
not first reading, but you could, the recommended motion from administration is for them to draft.
okay, I will move that council directs administration to draft an amendment to the traffic control bylaw to reduce the speed limit on Range Road 253 between Township Road 234 and Township Road 240 from 80 kilometers an hour to 60 kilometers an hour, and bring it forward for first reading at the next regular council meeting.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments regarding this? This is one that I wondered if we're setting a precedent. I mean, how many residents are out there that would love it if speed limits were reduced. Do we do this everywhere, or is there, I appreciate your density is quite a bit higher than most other places. I wonder if administration has other suggestions for traffic, slowing down traffic, if there's other ways we can do it without reducing speed limits. Have we contemplated anything else, or is there, I know that we had an issue in Cheadle that is different, of course, but they also had done some things there that we end up reducing that speed limit, or what did we do there?
Yeah, we reduced the speed.
We did in the end,
Yes.
yep. Yeah, I don't know. It's for me, that one's a tricky one because I just think I wonder if we should do something a little more and have some criteria for when we would contemplate reducing speed limits, or if there needs to be some sort of a policy around it. Does administration have any comments, guidance?
Sorry, I can go ahead. Through the chair, knowing this report was coming to council today, administration did go ahead and put some traffic counters on this road just to look at the amount of traffic and the average speeds and 85 percentile speeds and such on this road. This road is such, as Councillor Eichert mentioned, it is a smaller local road. What we did find was that the vast majority of traffic actually travels on this road at about that 60 km/h speed. Actually, we discussed this with our peace officer as well, Justin Valley. It may be appropriate for him to speak to it if that's amenable to the chair. He's familiar with it and might be able to provide some advice to council on this.
That'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Justin Valley again, through the chair. So yeah, I did get a chance to review the reports that were given on the speed and the amount of traffic on those roads. Again, both directions, the 85th percentile speed was around going south was 60 km/h and going north 68 km/h. I personally have driven this road. I do agree with Councillor Eichert's assessment that at 80 km/h in our pickup truck, it was bouncing all over the place. So being that we, it isn't a highly trafficked road. There is a little bit of uptick on different days of the week, but it's not an obscene amount of traffic. It is mostly local traffic. And being that most of the drivers are already driving that speed limit or that 60 km/h, I wouldn't see it as a massive detriment to reduce the speed to that. Personally.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Bigger and then Councillor Larson.
I have no problem with reducing. It looks like it's going to be used mostly by residents, but those residents will have company, relatives. I think it's an awareness for them that perhaps it would just be, it's more of a safety thing for anyone who happens to be on that road that doesn't know it. So I'm okay with it.
Mr. Larson?
I think I agree with Councillor LaPriest on the precedent. I could take you to many roads in my division, including the one I live on. And if you want to go 80 km/h on it and you hit some washboard on the gravel, you're going to be in the ditch probably. Most people can, the road that I live on is dreadful. It has a terrible amount of traffic, but most of the people on that road now have, at least when they're passing people, have slowed down. And it doesn't seem to be an issue. If we make, I guess, for lack of better words, an example out of this road, I can think of a lot of roads that have the same issue.
Any other comments?
If I may.
Yes, go ahead, Deputy Clausen.
I'm kind of the can of worms thing. In listening to the discussion, great discussion. the Alberta Traffic Act says you drive to the road conditions, so you can set a speed, people drive to the conditions. We see it all the time. That road, I've driven it. In fact, I used to drive a Golden Hill school bus down there at one time, and it's very tight, but it's tight because of the trees. And I would bet you 90% of those trees are on our right of way. And if we were to do it the proper way, there would be lots of sight, lots of, the road would be wider, everything. Like the road is old. It is broken up because people have various levels of dust control on it. It's kind of done it to itself. The precedent thing does concern me because we don't have residents asking us directly for this. It'd be different if there was a group of people coming in. It's almost like we're encouraging that, and I really have a hard time with that. If they want it bad enough, they'll come. I mean, we had that on a paved road. We dropped the speed limit down, and I've heard people that aren't happy with it for the fact. I really want to have it being either driven by staff or peace officers or the residents themselves. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes,
Can I
Councillor
just-
Eichert.
The reason I brought it forward this way is I want to find out whether or not this is if there's a couple of individuals that want this done, or if the majority of the 20 residences out there want this done. And if this is the most cost-effective way I can figure out whether or not, because everybody on this road the administration will reach out to every resident on this road. If they don't want it, then it dies right there. And if they do want it, then we have second and third reading to overturn. We don't have to listen to our ratepayers. I'm not sure that's a really smart move, but we have that alternative. So that's the reason I'm doing it this way, and the fact that me going down there and talking to every resident in there doesn't prove anything. I would then still have to have administration verify what my findings are. So I'm just trying to save myself a step. And like I said, we're trying to get first reading on this. First reading gets everybody on that road involved. If they don't want it, then it's dead in the water, and everything it's a bit of staff time, but it's not. They can pull up individual addresses and fire off letters to those individual people. It's not a huge outlay of money. So that is the reason I want this. I would like this done.
Okay. Councillor Castor.
I've had roads too. I've asked here for dogs getting run over, prize, herding dogs and whatnot, speeders. And I believe bylaw went and had a look a couple times and went away. I don't mind. I think it's a good thing to have a public hearing. But I'm against setting precedent on staff contacting everybody on the road for their opinion. I don't think we've never done that before. We've sent out letters, but that's through planning on 1 mile radius or something. I can't remember. Council sending out, what do you want on this road? What do you want here? No, I think that's the councilor's job of the area. So yeah, I can't support this. I hear from the peace officer that most of the speed is below 70. I think that's as good as you're gonna get.
Councillor Baker.
Yes, I think that's why this is being brought forward, is that we ask residents all the time for a new development or a change. This will go into a letter that will be sent to all of the participants. We do this all the time, and then a public hearing will be brought forward so that we do hear from the residents. I just didn't agree with we'd never do this. We do this all the time because we want to get it to a public hearing to hear from the residents that are on this road. And not for just Councillor Eichert to hear from them, but all of council to hear from them. Thank you.
Counselor Kester.
That's not what I heard. I heard that staff would get their opinion. We can do a notification for a public hearing. I'm fine with that, as I said. But to get their opinion, no, that comes at the public hearing. Send out a notification letter. We do that for public hearings, nothing else.
Any other comments? I'll call the question. Counselor Bigger,
In favor?
Counselor Eichert,
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen, Counselor Kester, Counselor Larson,
Opposed.
and I'm opposed. That is defeated. Moving on, we have Division 6 Council Report.
My report's on the server if there's any questions. If not, even if there is, I'll still move my report.
Any questions for Counselor Kester?
Yeah, I've got Wheatland Housing Management Board, AHP. As I understand it, has notified all the successful applicants whether or not they have been chosen or not, and due to confidentiality reasons with the federal government, you cannot say anything. I'm just asking, as of today, what is the build cost for the hospital if you get funding approval?
I'm not aware of anybody being approved. I haven't heard a thing from anybody. On the contrary, I've heard no hospices have been approved. Yeah, I can't say what the bill is. I don't have my papers in front of me. All I know is, all the thing I can say with certainty is the target of $700,000 for requisition or contribution for the down payment of the lodge is still intact. It's still $700,000 a year contribution. And that's the only number I can say for certainty. We've hit that target. It keeps moving, keep changing around. Oh, this costs more. Oh, this saves more. But that's the only thing I can tell you.
So
I haven't heard of anybody being accepted. I know there's been letters. I don't know for sure there's been letters, but I've heard gossip that affordable housing projects have been with the same pot of money. But I've heard that no hospital, no lodge has been accepted. I think the government's doing a rethink on it. That's all I can tell you with certainty. I just don't know.
So you are unaware of, as of today, what the build cost for the 120 bed lodge is?
I don't know for exactly what it is. I just know the municipal share is 700,000.
The reason I'm asking this question, we passed County Resolution 2023-04-62, and we've approved the amount of the bill to be $52.7 million, with AHP going, funding amount was $7 million. And then in 2024, we moved county motion 2024-04.19, and we moved the AHPP number to 14 million. So that would move the build cost from $52.7 million to $59.7 million. So my question is, if it's over $59.7 million, how is the lodge going to, or how is the Wheatland Housing Management Board going to fund that extra money? Because we have only agreed to go to 59.7 million.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. I believe the province were asking them for $18 million. I think the thing is over 60 million. But again, we're still meeting the original commitment to the municipalities of 700,000. That's the bottom line.
We've got a
When we get accepted, then it's easy. I'll have a piece of paper, but no, I don't know. I don't have it in front of me. Council would like to have that. I would strongly encourage council to send a letter to Wheatland Housing Management Body and request that.
We could do that. Counselor Eichert, if you'd like, after we vote on this motion, if you'd like to
I'll
make a motion to have a presentation from the board or something to that effect. I'm not sure what you want to do, but anyways, we'll deal with this one now. Is there any other questions for Counselor Castor? I'll call the question. Counselor Bigger,
Favor?
Counselor Eichert,
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen. Thank you. Counselor Castor,
Favor.
Counselor Larson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That is carried.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion. I'll move that we send a letter to the Wheatland Housing Management Board and ask the following questions. Number one, as of July 8th, 2025, what is the build cost for the 120 bed lodge? Question number two, if it is over $59.7 million, how will the overages be funded? Number three, how much AHPP funding money is being requested? And number four, how much has the lodge slash hospice spent since June 2020 to today, from June 2020 to July 8th, 2025 on plans, etc. for the lodge build? How much have they paid the following companies? Barry Architecture, Derek Weiss, M3 Developments, and Bird Construction.
Okay. Poor Shanna is struggling to keep up with that one. Thank you for the motion. We can just take a minute here for maybe you could, do you have something you could send her?
I think I do.
Okay, beautiful.
A second here.
He'll email you something here, I think.
I can email it
As soon as-
right
Yes,
now.
appreciate
I
that.
think. Where's that? No, yes, yeah, like as current.
Mhm.
Sorry, it's taking me a second here.
That's okay.
You should have it now.
Come up here. There it is. Deputy Reeve Clausen, we have it up on our, oh, it actually disappeared. It was there, now it's. Sorry, Deputy Reeve Clausen, just hold on a second. We're just trying to get it on the board here. Here we are. Nope. It's not funny.
How is it that one counselor had notice of motions today and another counselor just makes a motion? I thought we moved to the notice of motion so we would have all this typed up beforehand. Comment.
I'd have to look at our procedure manual to see if there's something.
Just through administration, I'd have to also take a look at the procedure bylaw, but my general like thought process would be that if it's in a report and there's like just questions about the report itself, then that's how a resolution could arise, if that makes sense. That's our administration's general thought process behind it. Sometimes if we do allow like or obviously it's up to council to determine if the rules of the meeting are being followed, but administration's general thought process is that if there's some questions that arise from a report, whether or not they have advised council beforehand, they're going to ask these questions or save them for the meeting and they're, fairly pointed questions or whatever, that's up to the counselor to kind of elaborate on if they choose to call the counselor beforehand and maybe ask some questions about the report or whatever. But I think the notices of emotions are a little bit different where the ones we saw today were about a vicious dog bylaw and the decorative signs for CGC, where those weren't in any reports at all. I think that those would kind of just be the reason why, in administration's view, that those would require notice of motion versus a question arising from some information in a report. Thank you.
Okay, we have the motion on the screen. Deputy Riff Clausen, would you like me to read it just so that you are fully aware? All right, if you feel confident that you're understand the motion, then I will call the question. Oh, sorry, a question.
I think July 8th is good because it sets us a time. It could be July 9th, July 10th. But current, I just don't want this number to be from 2024.
So you would like it to stand the way it's
Would like
written?
it to stand. I think we need to have a start date. Yeah, that's,
I think you'll have to take it to the board and they'll respond.
You'll only do the best they can, but
Yeah.
I don't think we can go what it was at July 8th. Yes.
Yeah. What you know of the cost
The
is,
current date, then it'll be a current date.
well, in your report, you could say that as of July 8th, our number is this. That's what we've been working on since April 15th or whatever it is that you came up with that number. That's your current. Okay. Councillor Larson.
Just two comments. Number two has actually already been answered because Councillor Kester said, regardless of what that cost is, the requisition to this county, which is really the only thing they need to know, is going to be the same at the $700,000. The second thing I'll comment on is this is fine to ask the board for and happy to provide it. Just understand that, you know, particularly question 4 is asking how much money we spent. Getting this information will cost money. So just be aware.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments or questions? I'll call the question. Councillor Bigger,
In favor?
Councillor Eichert,
in favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen. Councillor Kester. Councillor Larson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That is carried. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to Division 7, and then we'll take a recess after that.
My report's on the server. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'll move my report as presented.
Very good. Any questions for Councillor Larson? Hearing none, I'll call the question. Councillor Bigger,
In favor?
Councillor Eichert,
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen,
In favor.
Councillor Kester,
In favor.
Councillor Larson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. That is carried. All right, shall we take a 5-minute recess? We'll come back at 10, well, it's 10:20. Meeting back to order. Okay, our next agenda item is 8.1, Chief Administrative Officer Report.
Good morning, Council. Brian from Administration. On page 90 or 76 of your agenda package is a CAO report from June 2025. As always, the council resolution tracker is attached to the report. And once annually, we do present some general statistics about staff, employee class, either full-time, part-time, or seasonal. Just the annual turnover and the category, the years of service of the employees as well. So that's also been included. So we did include all the years that we've done this so far, just so council has that information for them. Maybe understand the, just to better understand the size of the organization and kind of the makeup of the organization, including years of service. So that is on page 79 of your council report, or council package, sorry. If there's any other questions about my report, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Henderson. Any questions?
I just want to thank administration, the work you guys are doing with WCB, saving that kind of money. That is good. Shows you've got people in there that are willing to fill out the paperwork and making a safe work environment and all that. So really good job on that. And with saying that, I'll move that council accepts the June 2025 CAO officer report as information.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Kester.
The retention of our employees 0 to 5 years is pretty good. Then it just kind of slides right off. Is that planned, or is that the way the economy is? Or I'm just curious. It just goes, the 20 to 25 years is 4, 2, 3. Just wonder, is that like reason for alarm or?
Do you just mean like the turnover categories?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That picture right there, here's the service.
Yeah, so I'd say that it's not necessarily so when we look at all of 2025 and 2024 and 2023, so I'd say in 2023 there wasn't a lot of turnover, and you know, people do move on. We're kind of a smaller organization, and the actual like level of these charts don't necessarily tell a story. So you see 9, it looks like it could be the same as our budget at like 40 million kind of thing, just how high that bar goes. However, one thing I would like to kind of draw council's attention to is that when it's actually very incredible. At the time of this report, 3 years in a row, we've had 35 female staff, which is amazing. Consistency is good. But in 2025, we actually had 4 less employees. So I'd say with those 4 less employees, you'd have to have at least 4 additional turnovers than there was in 2024. So if you take the 4 out here, that would bring you right back down to 3. So then this bar would be equal to that one. And that bar just looks disproportionately very large. And then, so it'd actually be lower turnover than the previous years as well by a couple. So turnover that we did have, we didn't replace some of the employees. We felt that we could find efficiencies internally, which would benefit the ratepayers, keep our tax increases lower. And yeah, that's kind of the process we took there.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, I also thought that was interesting just to see where we are employee wise. I think it's good information for us all. And I also wanted to give kudos on the certificate of recognition regarding the WCB savings. So thank you very much for that. Any other comments?
Just one last comment from administration. The reason for us bringing this forward to council is just to be transparent as possible, of course. If we thought there was an issue, we wouldn't be highlighting it to council in a voluntary report that we don't have to present. So we just did want to show council just so all of council can understand and the public can understand the general picture of the county operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will call the question. Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen. Councillor Kester.
Favor.
Councillor Larson.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. There is another motion regarding the resolution tracker. Councillor Bigger.
I'll move that council accepts the July 8th, 2025 council resolution tracker as information.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? I'll call the question. Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Councillor Larson.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That's carried. Next on the agenda is the appointment of a substitute returning officer.
Yes, good morning, council. As shown on page 87 of your council agenda, it's just a housekeeping item for the upcoming municipal election. Just the substitute returning officer just was unable to perform the duties as outlined as required, and we're just appointing someone else internally for that position. If there's any questions about this report, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for CAO Henderson? Council's wishes.
I'll move the council rescind the appointment of Jessica Solomon as substitute returning officer and appoint Vinod Jazra, Director of People Services, as the substitute returning officer for the 2025 municipal election.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? I'll call the question. Councillor Bigger.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Councillor Larson.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That's carried. Next on our agenda is a consent agenda review.
Yes, good morning, council. Brian again from administration. Page 90 of your agenda package is the report of the consent agenda review. So about a year ago, council implemented the consent agenda, which has reduced some meeting time, council meeting time, which is good to kind of consolidate routine items. At the time, we just decided to put in approval of minutes and any correspondence into that consent agenda review. So we thought after a year, it would be prudent to bring this back for council's consideration to see if there's other methods or ways that we could potentially streamline the meetings. One observation that administration did have for the meetings that we're going to present today is just the council reports. So we thought that the council reports, sometimes when we get to the kind of the end of the divisional reports, so say divisional 6 and 7, most of the items have already been covered. So administration's thought process was to kind of mirror something similar to the town of Strathmore's consent agenda, where the town doesn't actually have council reports. We would say to keep those council reports in the actual agenda package themselves. However, provide council just an opportunity to speak to the reports if asked or if wanting to. Administration's thought process behind that one is that we would reduce 7 resolutions at the council meetings where, you know, you come up to a roll call vote. It's, you know, we did this, we did that. However, provide council an opportunity to speak to the reports in a section before the consent agenda, such as, you know, brief discussion topics on council reports. And then council could verbally mention their reports. That doesn't take away the ability for council to speak to the reports in that section. However, if council did have some more in-depth questions about that, of course, you could remove it from the consent agenda as well. So we did provide some consent agendas in the actual report itself. Administration did note it was about 5.5 hours that council did discuss their reports, including passing of the resolutions, which does take time. You know, 7 resolutions at say 30 seconds a vote, you know, takes a little bit of time, might just be extra time that council thinks about other stuff. So again, it's the reports here. Administration is not saying that we need to make any sort of adjustments today, or we could implement the adjustments after the municipal election, or wait till after the municipal election, or no adjustments required. Administration did commit to bring this back in about a year's time for council's review, just to streamline your meetings. If there's any questions about this report, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Councillor Kester.
I move that council accepts the report on the consent agenda preview as information. And my comment would be, yeah, we're moving forward. We can change it, the ability, but we have an election coming up in October. It would be maybe bring it back and explain it to the new council November, December, and see what their take is on it.
Anybody else? I thought it was an interesting idea, and I kind of like it. But one thing I think that just looking at some of the other municipalities' packages, I wonder if we could do a better job of including the minutes from the meetings that we all attend from our respective boards. I think sometimes, like, we might not have questions on people's reports if we had the Wheatland Housing Management Body minutes or the Wheatland or the WRC minutes, all the Wadenza, all these things. We all sit here and wonder what's going on, and you know, a report comes and goes, and they say I attended a meeting, and we don't hear much else about it. So I'm in favor of having our reports put into a consent agenda. But I think that we should do a better job, I think, of including those minutes. And so I think we could formalize a process where whoever sits on that board submits the minutes when they submit their reports or something like that, and all could go in consent agenda. But then, yes, having a section of councillor Q&A or something like that, so that if something in a report tweaks a question, you're able to do it without going through a formal process of pulling a report out. And like, to me, that's unwieldy. But so those are my thoughts on the potential process. But I don't mind if we wait until a new council is elected to try a new format and see if they like it, I guess.
So some of the reports, I put down attended council, then there'd be a link, or I don't know how to do links, but it's on the website. And some of the board meetings, I know WHMB, all their minutes are posted on the website. Just make reference that they're on
You could do a link, yep. Mhm.
without taking up more space.
Having a 500-page agenda, yes. I know that's the other risk of having them all included, is the agenda package becomes so unwieldy. All right, so we have a motion just to accept for information at this point. Do we want to direct administration to bring back something in November?
Could say bring the back
It could be,
for the election.
Okay, sorry, Deputy Reeve Clausen?
I was just going to say, it could be a good discussion. Done, just in the back of your mind, what you want to see, go from there.
Sometimes a new council doesn't really know what they want, having not experienced it. That's my other thought on that, but all right, well, we have a motion on the floor. Any other comments? I'll call the question. Councillor Bigger,
In favor?
Councillor Eichert,
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen,
In
Councillor Kester,
In favor?
Councillor Larson,
In favor.
and I'm in favor. All right, next on our agenda is the Corporate and Financial Services Report.
Good morning, Council. Corey Freeman, Administration, here to present the Corporate and Financial Services Report for June. And that's found on page 104 of the Council package. So just want to highlight just a couple of things. There was a question last Council meeting just in regards to the repairs that have been done on water meters. So there is a small chart here just showing that we've gone from January to May. We're down from 10% to 6% of the overall utility users still needing repair, and those are continuing to decrease as staff is working on making appointments and repairing those. We've also included just some little bit of information just around what each of the different terms mean that could have issues with water meters there. The other thing I just wanted to point out as a point, so the provincial government has rescinded the FOIP Act. So it has been replaced on June 11th with the Access to Information Act and the Protection of Privacy Act. So they split it into two. So now, as a result of that, staff has got a lot of work to go and remediate a lot of our statements everywhere and bylaws and things. So just kind of heads up to council, you might see some amendments to our bylaws and things like that. So we have about a year to get it done, but of course we want to get on it as soon as possible. And so work has already begun to do that, for us to do that. So I did want to point that out. We're hoping to do some training, likely soon, if not even maybe when the new council comes, just to give some oversight on some of the changes that have happened with it. And that concludes my report. I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? Thank you for that information on the water meters. That is very interesting for us to understand, and something that we don't see all the time. So it's good to kind of understand what the issues are with meters and how it could be that you need to have estimates for potentially a few months in a row type thing. So thank you very much for that. Any other questions? I'll call the question. Or did we, sorry, we need a motion. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Kester. I'll call the question. Councillor Baker.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I'm in favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor?
Councillor Larson.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That is carried. Next up is our 2025 Master Asset Management Plan and next steps. Good morning.
Morning, Council. Harry from Administration, here to present Wheeling County's 2025 Master Asset Management Plan. Can be found on page 118 of your agenda package. So this is our first comprehensive asset management plan developed in partnership with PST Citywide, who is our asset management service provider. So while we've had a asset management plan for bridges, we found that this marks our first master asset management plan comprising all of our assets. We realized that doing asset by asset would have taken us a long time to get a grasp of all our assets. So we wanted to pivot and make a master asset management plan and kind of set a foundation for our long-term planning before we start doing deep dives. So this gives us a high-level overview of all our assets and that we can work off of and kind of set a baseline for what we can do going forward. This asset management plan establishes a repeatable and scalable framework for continuous improvement and future integration with our capital budgeting and operational planning. The plan is to have this master asset management plan updated regularly. While we were looking into this, we already noticed that bridges were a couple of years outdated. So whenever we do a master asset management update after doing a deep dive of an asset, this master asset management plan gets updated with all the rest of the information as well. So have a more refined and accurate information moving forward. With that strategy in mind, I'd want to talk to you about some of the major findings and key highlights of the report. So the county's total asset replacement cost is now estimated at $766 million, representing a significant increase from our previous report. In our previous report, we did have bridges as our #1 asset, but after inputting some more accurate information about our road replacement costs and whatnot coming from operations, we were able to update that, and our now road network is the highest valued asset at almost $360 million. In your report, you'll be able to see that current assets by category. So if you're ever curious about road network, you're able to go in here. Sorry, this is the bridges, but if you look at the breakdown of roads, you'll also notice that we took out the gravel roads from the calculation because we do have a lot of gravel roads, and they're kind of in a perpetual maintenance is how we called it. It is high replacement cost, but it's not exactly the same as a paved road. So we have separated paved road from gravel roads. And for when we say road network, we're only considering the paved roads. So it has that $360 million for the paved roads, and then you see the length and the replacement cost, and the cost per unit can also be found in the appendix, the value that we used. So any assets you have in here, you'll be able to see and get a more in-depth information of where we got that number from. So just going back in here, now the road is now accounting for roughly 47% of our portfolio, so it's a significant increase. So that's a major change that we've seen from previous draft. I did want to go over some condition assessment as portfolio as well. In general, we're in a very good shape. 84% of our assets are in fair or better condition. Some of the poor and very poor we see could actually be considered. It's not all doom and gloom with them as well. Most of them are by year built. So a lot of assets have different levels of decay. So if you have an asset that from year one some assets gradually decrease, some assets decrease a little bit, and then significantly at a later life. If we go in, say we have an asset that's 20 years life cycle, we go in the 18th year and find that the asset is in very good condition, we can now plot that into a new life cycle and say, okay, this asset will probably last us 35 years instead of 20 years. So that condition assessment is very important. So we don't have that information in for all our assets. So it's possible that some of our assets in poor and very poor, once it's inspected and we put that condition assessment, becomes fair or good. So it's possible. So that condition assessment, while we have a pretty good information about it, it can be updated still. And our service life remaining largely reflects our overall portfolio condition as well. I did want to highlight a few things that we noticed. We noticed that there's a high value shown in road network for 6 to 10 years. So it's still some time out, but it's likely based on some of the year built that's coming up due for replacement. So if we were to do a deep dive and find that some of these assets are holding up a lot better, then this 6 to 8 year period remaining roads is possible that they get extended into 10 years, over 10 years remaining for service life remaining. Bridges and culverts is largely what we expect. So that's the pressure that's coming. That's pretty soon. We do have some that are considered service life expired, meaning it's past the replacement life cycle technically. And we do have quite a bit that are coming within the next 0 to 5 years, which it's not unexpected. And another thing I did want to highlight was the stormwater network. We do have 3.4 million here, but that's actually largely coming from the fact that we didn't have information. We didn't have the year built. So out of caution, it was put into service life expired, but we expect this to be a lot smaller once we could do a deep dive and get actual year builds and get some kind of condition assessment. We expect this to be closer to the water and wastewater network in terms of service life remaining. So this is first iteration, like I said, but it provides a high level, but an actionable starting point at least. Another thing I would like to highlight, unlike the previous draft that was presented in the community of the whole, this one does include some financial recommendations. It did identify some deficient funding just based off the numbers that we had of about 13 million annually. And some of these highlights can be shown on page 124 of the draft. So there's some executive summaries. Key findings are in the beginning of the draft, and then some of the key recommendations that they found, the third party found that were suggested to us. So going back into the report here. And some of the key highlights I've mentioned are shown here as well. So the next steps, this is kind of like asset management is definitely a journey, and we've kind of taken a step. It's a big step, but we've taken a step for grasping what we have and what we have to deal with. The plan here is to, like I said, do more deep dives so that we can improve this master asset management plan and get a better idea about what we're dealing with. And the initial recommendation was, obviously we saw the big numbers in road network, so we wanted to look at that road network. But we also found that next year we have paved road condition assessment coming up next year. So we're actually going to wait on that data as well. We're waiting on that data to update to our road network. The plan is to do some utility work as well. So in the next coming year or so, we're going to be working on both roads and utility data. Even on utility data, we didn't look at any equipment in pump houses or anything like that, so we can get into another level once we get into utility asset management deep dive. So there's a lot of assets that we can look at tracking and integrating into this asset management plan. Data quality improvements. So we always want to be improving our GIS data. A lot of this is from GIS data, but we want to be, and it's syncing, but we also want it to start attaching to some of the financial software as well. And like I mentioned before, we want to do regular updates so that we don't have bridge data that's a couple of years away, outdated. We're always trying to look to update the master asset management plan. And council and the rest of the public has one document to look at. Obviously, the rest of the details can come, but it's not like you're not going anywhere to hunt down specific asset management plan. And then revise the asset management policy. So we do recommend, when we created the asset management policy, this was before our first asset management plan was even made. So we've taken some steps since. So we wanted to update that policy, include the asset management strategy of having a master plan and updating that master plan with a deep dive. So integrate that and put that into policy is something that we would recommend doing next. So that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions, and it's a long read, but it's a pretty in-depth knowledge of what the state of our assets, I think. So
Thank you very much. Harry, questions? Yes, Councillor Kister.
Bridges. How did you rate them? Like, I know there's a provincial scale, 10-1. And, but I would like to know if a bridge is rated at 54 ton, is that still a good bridge? Or is that a poor bridge?
Through the chair, it's there's probably quite a bit to answering that question. Council or administration is preparing a more fulsome report about bridge and bridge ratings. The load reduction on a bridge could have to do with its original construction as well. There's been a lot of history on the roads in terms of the required load rating for roads and bridges on those roads. And the load rating on bridges has changed, or sorry, on the roads has changed over time, which may mean that a bridge that was built a number of decades ago was actually designed for a lower load rating than what the provincial requirements are for the road rating. So I guess overall there's a lot of nuances to it, and we do plan to explain all those nuances in the upcoming report. So hopefully that helps. Now, if there is a condition problem with the bridge, then sometimes we will reduce the load rating on that bridge for that reason until we can complete the required repairs or bridge replacement, which is another scenario where that might come up.
I get what you're doing, but from my point of view, as user of the roads, if a road bridge is rated, to me, that's poor, even very poor. If I can't go down that road, no matter what the condition of the road is, if I can't cross that bridge, if I can't get out, what's the bottleneck? It's the bridge. And if it was built for a certain weight, okay, I can accept that. But at today's standards, it's poor. It's not up to snuff. That's what I'm trying to get across. So if it's rated, oh, this bridge is good, it'll last another 30 years, but it's only rated for 30 ton, to me, that's unacceptable. That's like a road. Ban the road 50% because that's all it's good for. We've strived and we got good roads, and for the most part, I think our bridges are better than what the numbers are saying, but I'm no bridge guy. But I think we have to look at it in a different way. These bridges are affecting the way our transportation grid works. If you can't cross that bridge, why pave 20 miles of road and right in the middle you can't go across that? Just, I'm not saying paved roads are like that, but we've run into similar situations in the past and we had to upgrade a section of road so it wasn't banned. And I think we have to look the same way with these bridges. We have to get these bridges back up to snuff. It's hurting our commerce in the county. And, I know in the east here, there's takeover of some oil field assets. I know drilling is continuing out there, or supposedly there was some slates for drilling. I don't know if they're going to continue with new management. If they have to start dealing with bridges that don't work, then they just can't get in. So I think as a county, we have to come up with a strategy on go back right to the basics again and get a grid network, work on those bridges and get the roads. The road, you talk about the road, it's being very good or excellent, but if there's a poor bridge on it in the grid, it's poor, right? You've got to make it functionable. So I know we're not going to get it done today, but just the thought for your mind to try and get through to how can we make our grid better?
Councillor Larson.
Since we're on bridges, I don't know who gets the question, but When you have a bridge rated at 54 ton, for example, which means that oil field traffic or B trains that farmers have and some equipment can't cross that bridge. But the question I have is that 54 ton is rated, if I understand it correctly, for what the bridge can hold. So if the unit is longer than the bridge, yet over 54 ton, but there would only be, say, 3 out of 6 axles on it at one time, can that load that weighs 70 ton, let's say, cross that bridge because not all axles will be on the bridge at the same time?
Through the chair, yeah, this is another topic that is going to get addressed in that upcoming report. However, when the bridges are designed, they are designed based on the axle loads into the standardized trucks with the distance between axles and the allowed loads per axle with various safety factors and such as is required by the bridge code. Yes, it is considered if the entire truck cannot fit on that bridge, it's not designed for the full weight of the truck. It's designed for the specific axle loads that can fit on that bridge. And of course, in accordance with the various factors that are required through the bridge code.
Right. So if I understand you right, then if 3 out of the 6 axles can fit on the bridge at one time, then, and those 3 axles would be 54 ton or less, that unit can cross the bridge.
Yeah, so well, the bridge would be rated for the size of truck that can pass over it, considering the number of axles of that truck that could fit on the bridge at any one time. I hope I'm answering that.
Yeah, but that's, if I'm understanding you right, if only 3 out of the 6 axles can fit on the bridge at one time, then it becomes irrelevant how much the truck is holding, as long as any of those 3 axles together do not exceed 54 ton.
Not quite. If it's, say, a 54 ton truck, the bridge would be rated for how many axles of that type of truck could fit on that bridge at any one time. So the bridge might be rated for less, and actually the actual load that the bridge can carry might be less than 54 ton because it would be the number of axles of that particular truck that the bridge can hold. As you start getting into smaller span trucks, my understanding is that pattern changes a little bit because you can get smaller trucks, for example, that can carry that much load. And so it's a standardized process within the bridge design code of what they need to design for a specific length of bridge and the pattern loading as the axle passes over the bridge and how many axles could theoretically be on the bridge at any one time. The bridge itself might not be able to carry the full 54 or 63.5 tons, but it would be designed to carry the load of the axles associated with that size of a truck. And that would be the rating of the bridge, would be the size of the truck, not the actual load that the bridge can support.
Okay, well, just make that clear in the new report. That's not particularly clear.
Maybe we'll provide some diagrams from the bridge code in that report.
Yeah, that'd be
useful.
And perhaps if there's any specific questions about those two, the issues, maybe Councillor Larson and GM Bullock can just chat at lunch and get the exact answers they need.
Any other, oh, okay.
If I'm,
Sorry, Councillor Kester and then Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Yeah, on page 123. It has our capital spending, our historical capital spending last, I don't know how long, 2 years it looks like anyway. It's $5 million. And it looks like our target to make everything work out here on accounting is $18 million. So I'm reading that right. We're in a deficit of $13 million a year, which is a substantial. I did see it someplace else in here, but I can't find it. Don't know how to mark it on the computer. But did that translate to a 26% tax increase, or I can't remember that exact number, if it was even in this report?
Through the chair, so I know that we didn't specifically address the tax. I know that they're in the master asset management plan. It does recommend a yearly tax rate, but I do know that we're going to cover a little bit on the reserves on another report, which might cover a little bit maybe some of the questions that you have.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Yes, thank you. The report's great. I like to see that when the asset is hourred out or yeared out, that we go and review it and say, okay, can we extend the life of this? Hopefully we can do that internally, or maybe we have to contract out some of it to figure out what that is. I think that's excellent. On the bridge issues, keep in mind that probably a lot of that's federal. Like if you could have many more axles than what we would call a tandem and haul much more weight, but the length of it is only so much. It is very confusing. I do this for a living, and you see a picture of a truck and it says so many ton, and I think Councillor Larson was looking at it as well. Like that whole truck could be way more, but only parts of it are on the bridge. But I don't know a clear way to get that information out there, because a truck could be coming from across Canada with a different axle configuration and may have extra load. Keep in mind, they should be following Alberta's, but they don't. But at the end of the day, if they collapse our infrastructure on poor signage, I'd much rather protect that infrastructure. So I'm glad we're looking into it. Thanks.
Very good. I have a question, and I'm sorry about this. I still can't get my head around the $5 million a year that we're allocating. Like, how does that compare to our budget where we have $45 million in capital budget? Like, why are we saying only 5 million? And I know it was sort of explained here, but I wouldn't mind just an extra.
You know, that may just be the historical amount of capital spending. We are definitely falling behind. It's kind of case in point. And one issue that we do fall into as well is that the cost of inflation always drives these asset replacements up. It is very difficult as well to really get I find this is a big problem with the asset management and where the money does come from, because of course there's grants that are going to come up, but you're not guaranteed those grants year over year. A great example is that if 20 years ago someone said that, you know, we need a pipeline that runs through the east part of the county to provide potable water, and it was going to cost 55 million or 50 million or whatever, you know, a report would have said, you know, just based on taxation, we're going to have to raise taxes from the villages are going to have to raise some, the county is going to have to raise some. However, we did receive 90% grant funding for that project. So I think there's a lot of unknowns, and yeah, it's interesting. We get STIP funding sometimes for bridges, sometimes we don't. It's yeah, it's kind of just sometimes depends on government funding. A big chunk of it does as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, Corey or Harry?
Oh, yeah, through the chair. I also wanted to mention too, this is you know, the outlook of the asset management plan. I believe it was 10 years, right? And so there's a lot of stuff that's kind of coming due all at the same time. So that's why you're seeing this much higher spending limit, right? That's required. And obviously through more deep dives into our assets and the maintenance, that could be spread out a little bit more. So right now it is a picture, right? That kind of gives us an understanding that yes, we do have a high demand coming, but we have enough time now, given this information, that we can start seeing how we can work around that. And so, you know, I think that's why this particular report is great, because it does point it out and it does allow us to have that ability to be able to start reacting to it. And that might adjust the way council might approach future tax rate increases, et cetera.
Excellent.
And further to that, I believe this is the historic spending is up last 3 years, and it's excluding any grants and stuff like that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Any other comments?
I just want to thank you for the, like you say, it's a sort of a picture of right now. And this would have been such a, I'm glad the municipality is working on asset management, but if this should have been implemented 10 years ago, probably should have been implemented 20 years ago, but there was no push to do this. So thank you very much for this. This is going forward, this is going to be nothing but a help. So thank you.
I agree. It's an incredible amount of work, and we appreciate having this level of understanding of what we have and what's coming up. It's enlightening and sort of sobering, and highlights the importance of having a structured plan moving forward. So we're all grateful for the information and the incredible amount of work. It can't have been easy. So thank you very much for that. All right, we have a couple of motions. Proposed. Council's wishes. Councillor Baker.
I'll move that council accept the 2025 Master Asset Management Plan and next steps as information.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? I'll call the question. Councillor Baker.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
In favor.
Councillor Larson.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That's carried. There's another proposed motion on the screen. Councillor Kester. Oh, your microphone, please. Yep. Thank you.
I'll start over. The council direct administration to prepare a revised asset management policy that reflects updates and advancements in the asset management program, incorporating a master asset management plan, and bring the revised policy forward to a future council meeting for consideration.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? I'll call the question. Councillor Baker.
In favor?
Councillor Eichert.
In favor.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
In favor.
Councillor Kester.
Favor.
Councillor Larson.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. That's carried. Thank you very much for the presentation. Our next item is a reserves review for the asset management planning. Welcome, Joel.
Morning, Council. Joel from Financial Services here. Present the next agenda item, the reserves for AM planning. Can be found on 274. Oh, we're already there. There you go. So the purpose of this report was basically to dovetail to the previous report and provide some more context and specifics for our current 2025 budget and the 2024 year-end reserve balances, just so that council can have some context there and just equip for future budget decisions, tax rate decisions, grant decisions, just all sorts of ways to fund or tackle this asset management plan. So just briefly go over the approach here. So what we did is we started with the total reserve balances, the designated reserves. So we have reserve policies that council is aware of, and each individual policy in the reserves designates those for specific purposes, whether it's paved roads or utility reserves for certain hamlets and communities. They're all designated and collected for a specific purpose. So we gathered the total for all of those reserves. That comes to about the $36 million there. And we removed the special and non-capital reserves. Those would be things that are capital continuity, or sorry, operation continuity, tax stabilization reserves that currently don't exist necessarily for the direct purpose of funding capital. Just recognizing that although council's future decisions could be to move money around and make changes, the current balances in those reserves is not designated for capital. So we took those monies out of there to come up with the net balance that's available for assets. And in this little excerpt here from the asset management plan, what they did is they identified the different types of assets and generally how they're funded, whether it's from taxation or from rates. And so we took that same approach and we slotted to all of those asset management or capital related reserves. We identified them as either tax funded or rate funded. And then we broke that down here. So you can see that the utility rate funded reserves are about 1.3 million, and then the property tax or just general revenue come to 17.6 million. And so again, that's the breakdown from the 18.9 million that we identified available above. We did just mention the unallocated surplus that we kind of identify during the audit period, and just wanted to be conservative with this balance. And so we didn't include it in this, but we did show a calculation on what potentially could be considered a cash amount available from this reserve, just recognizing that there's some assets that support the unallocated surplus that aren't cash, whether it's parts, supplies that we have at the public workshop, or even gravel, or like net assets that come out from that. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't including that, because they obviously can't be used to replace assets in the direct payment sense. I suppose gravel can be used on gravel roads. So our next step is we went to the Appendix D. This is the 10-year capital requirement plan that's in the asset management plan. And we just summarized it, rounded up to millions, and we kind of represented it here. But what we did is we broke it down into those areas or divisions or asset types that are funded by those property taxes versus the ones that are utility related, such as the water and wastewater network. And then we just recreated that same 10-year format here to come up with the totals by each division. We included an average just so you could see what that was. And then finally, we added both together to come to a consolidated total. So our last step here was then to give more context and just show what does that look like from the asset management ask in terms of what the plan states and what our 2025 budget, the current budgeted values that would normally be designated for that capital purpose. And so what we kind of laid those out here, whether it's interest that we've budgeted to go to reserves, or the set amount that's budgeted to go to from the tax or general revenue in that year. We also wanted to be conservative with this approach as well, just as Brian had mentioned in the prior report, that we didn't want to include those one-off grants, which can be substantial, and they do help kind of close that gap that we'll see here in a moment as well. But those one-off grant applications, STIP, some of the water, like wastewater lagoon kind of grants that we'll request periodically. And some of those one-time things, we just didn't include them here. We just concluded items that are a regular kind of ongoing annual item that gets put towards capital. So then what we did is we took that consolidated infrastructure cost and what the annual amounts would be based on the 2025 budget, and we just dragged it across that 10-year period, and then calculated the accumulated shortfall that's represented by that. So, and then again, just to clarify, we can see on the graph, and this is just a graphical representation of the same table above. And it's important to recognize that, again, it doesn't have the one-time grants, and we just kind of identified some other methods that could be utilized to kind of close the shortfall gap across time. This is a good pictorial or graphical example of how in the last couple of years, I think that during budget, we've shown the reserves kind of drawing down over time. That's one way to fund the gap in there, is using the existing reserves, whereas what we're showing in this 2025 budget is just kind of current year revenue or current year values that are going towards that. So drawing from reserves is one method to pay for that difference. Considering debt funding, increasing user fees or tax revenue, something that we haven't considered here is also increases in development. So we have large increases in tax bases depending on large projects and infrastructure that's like private infrastructure and buildings and stuff that goes in the next few years that also increases that tax revenue base. And so that can also be used to fund that gap as well. That concludes my report. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions for Joel? Another excellent report. Honestly, the amount of work that you guys are doing to help explain this to us is incredible and we appreciate it. It's nice to see that, you know, we're not unique and there are lots of different options for closing that gap. And so, yeah, it's just, while the first report in my mind was sobering, this one kind of reassured me that, yeah, we have work to do, but there are solutions available and we'll have to start to address them and yeah, so thank you so much for the information. Anything else? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I move that council accepts a reserve review for asset management planning report for information.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Now that we have a full, oh, you don't have a, but could we just show of hands? I'll just ask, call the question, all in favor? Yay, that's way easier. That's carried. Excellent. Thank you for joining us, Deputy Reeve. The next
Cooler in here.
item on the agenda is our contract services review.
Hello again, Joel from Financial Services. We'll present your next item. It's found on page 280 of the agenda package. So this report provides some information for financial variances related to the contract and general services line, which was requested at the May 6th council meeting. So we start by showing or representing the financial statement values, just as was on the 2024 report. You can see that here, the contracted general services line, the budget was 12 million, and then the actuals were 11.2, 11.3 million, and the prior year being around 9.8 million. So variances noted were high level and not to the exact penny. Just keeping in mind that this cost type occurs across the entire organization with many different activities and services impacted. Therefore, we did our best to identify the higher value items and show a general reconciliation. So we've broken down the report into 3 general sections. The first starting with the changes from actuals from the 2024 versus the 2023 year. So you can see here that the overall, it's a $1.5 million increase. And the main driver for that is that broadband investment in that project. There are some utility projects that may not be costed as capital, such, for example, if it's below our capitalization threshold. And so then in those cases, they get identified as operating expenses. And those have been highlighted here as well, the utilities ones on a separate color. The next approach is we wanted to just show the 2024 budget summary and the variance of the actuals versus budget. So in this area, overall, it was around $740,000 under budget. We would note that the higher item here, the planning, development, inspection fees, was $677,000 over budget. But we just wanted to emphasize that in this, because we're just looking at the cost line and we're not looking at recoveries. And we identified that in the report that the revenue offsetting this was around $750,000. So when you look at the net impact of it, it actually was a net positive. But just in terms of like the development that's been going on in the county, it's kind of just a natural growth of those costs in that area. Finally, there was also a part of the resolution request to compare to the 2025 budget. Obviously, that's not part of the 2024 financial statements, so that number is not included at that top figure, but we did that reconciliation here. We found that the decrease was around $2 million from year to year. And again, a lot of this has to do with dropping off on that broadband project. You can see that $2.1 million here decreased from the budget year. In a lot of cases too, the contract services line has contingencies and studies and a lot of these things that may end up in capital or in operating depending on what the actual cost ends up being. Because we have a policy for capitalization that depending on the asset, if it's below that, then we just kind of put it as an operating expense. If it's over a threshold, then we end up having to capitalize it just based off accounting standards. So that concludes my report. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Kester.
Yeah, just thanks for the report. When I was talking about these audited statements, I also mentioned I would like to see how much it's costing the county to produce a cube of water. And I still would like to know that. We know what WRC is charging us for a cube of water, and we know what their labor rate is. And I would like to be able to compare them. I see in here there's increases, but doesn't mean much to me when I don't have a baseline. So if I just knew how much it was costing for the water, that would be answer a lot of my questions.
Through the chair. So just to touch on that, we do plan on bringing back a report for utility rate discussions, and we can bring back that information as well.
Very good. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, another. Thank you very much. Any other discussion?
Oh,
I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Joel. Next item on our agenda is the Community and Development Services Report.
Good morning, Sherry Bars from Administration to present the June 2025 Community and Development Services Report, which is found on page 285 of your agenda package. I don't have anything additional to add at this time and available for any questions.
Any questions or comments? Council's wishes.
Do you have a question?
Okay.
I want to, lately I've signed development permits that have been approved that didn't need to come to council. And I want to thank you for the letters that you send back to them and then let us be aware of them because you get us to sign them also. But I'm wondering, I'm just wondering about maybe creating a KPI on development in the county. I know this is a big ask, bigger than just a comment, but I'm just, if you could just think about, this is something that I'm thinking that might, it's almost like a tracker, but it would be like individual development that at what stage it might be at. Just something to think about for future for council, so that we're aware what's going on with development in the different areas.
Through the chair to council, we could put something together like that. We track development at different stages for things, and we probably could put that into a spreadsheet.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any other comments? Make a motion.
I'll move that council accepts the 2025 Community and Development Services Report as information.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Moving on, our next item is Fire Inspection Contract Services 2025 to 2027.
Hello again, Council. Stefan Kuntz from Administration. Presenting this item, it's for a contract for fire inspection contract services. In May, Wheeling County released a request for proposal for the provision of fire safety inspections and fire investigation services. We didn't have a contract at the time, but we received two proposals reviewed by administration. The successful proponent through that review found that the inspections group was the winning bid. So the pending, obviously, council's approval today to sign the contract, what they would do is assist with providing fire safety services as well as fire safety inspections. So it'd be for like this building as well as any other county-owned buildings. Developers or individuals may request an inspection, issue follow-ups, orders, directives, etc. They would also conduct fire investigations and help with inquiries in administrative matters. The inspections group they've been around since 2001, and they're currently our safety codes provider. So we've been very satisfied with their work in that area. So we're satisfied it will continue in the fire services area as well. So we are of course recommending that you accept the contract and authorize the signing of it. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Deputy Clausen.
Thanks. Question, what happens for buildings or whatnot that are in process of being built? Does it carry, does the one company finish it, the inspection, or does it? I just hate, I know of one in particular where there's some concerns in fire stuff inside the building, and want to make sure that it doesn't fall through the cracks.
Through the chair, we have a meeting scheduled with inspections group this afternoon. So that's one of the items, the transition part that we're hoping to discuss with them. But that's certainly something that we can bring up with them.
Because some of these developments take multiple years to finish, and we change, just want to make sure that information continuity is pushed through. So with that, I'll make the motion that council accepts the contract with Inspection Group Inc. for fire inspection and investigation services for a term of 2 years from July 8th, 2025 to December 31st, 2027, and authorizes the Reeve and Chief Administrative Officer to sign the agreement.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay. How are we doing? Should we do one more and then maybe we'll go to the in-camera at 11:30? We'll do the sale of former road allowance. Good morning, Taylor.
Morning.
Taylor Feltz with the Planning and Development Services team, here presenting the sale of a 3.17 acre portion of closed road allowance. This section of the closed allowance is located immediately south of Township Road 270 between the northeast and northwest quarters of Section 31, Township 26, Range 19, west of the 4th. The applicant presented an appraisal assessment to determine the fair market value of these lands. The assessed value of the land is determined to be $17,752, and the applicant has agreed in principle to purchase the lands at this value. Should council approve the sale, staff will meet with the interested party to execute the purchase and sales agreement and register the transfer at the land titles office. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Council's wishes?
I'll move that council approve the sale of former road allowance as indicated on the attached air photo map for $17,752. The amount stipulated in the market value appraisal.
Thank you very much. I have one question. So that now it has a municipal road standard on it. Does that just become their driveway and we would stop maintaining it? It would be up to them. Is that how it works?
Through the chair, yes. The portion of built road will become their responsibility to maintain in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. So we had a request to do our in-camera session starting at 11:30. So, Councillor Larson?
You have to be the one that we removed from in camera first.
I don't think so. That will just follow the agenda.
Oh, I thought you wanted it done first, Brian, in case we
9.1.
had to go in camera with it.
Oh,
It doesn't matter to me. I just thought you wanted that.
okay, we'll go to 9.1 then. WHMB resignation letter.
Good morning, Council. Brian from administration. So council did receive a resignation letter from the WHMB member of large, Debbie Wakelam. Administration's thought process behind this would just be to accept that resignation letter from Ms. Wakelam and to not appoint someone up until October 2025. I just think that it might just be best for all parties just to kind of leave it as is, and come October 2025, maybe try it again. My also general thought, and Councillor Kessler could confirm this, I think there's only 2 board meetings for the WHMB between now and October. 2? Counting October as well. Okay. So administration did draft this resolution up. I sent it to Shanna, but that council accepts the resignation letter from Debbie Wakelam for the WHMB member at large position, and that council leaves the position vacant until 2025 and fills the position at the next organizational meeting in October 2025. That was just administration's general advice and thought process behind it. If there's any questions regarding the presentation, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments? Councillor Larson.
I support what administration's doing here. And in fact, when Ms. Wakelam tendered her resignation to the Wheatland Housing Management Body, it should have actually been done to the council, and then the council informed the Wheatland Housing Management Body. So that was done incorrectly as well. But I think rather than focusing on a whole bunch of what should have been done, I would agree with just accepting the resignation and not appointing anyone till October, when hopefully we have some new people.
Yeah, I agree with that. Any other comments or questions? Sorry, did we have a motion on the floor? Yeah. You made that motion?
Yeah, I'll move to accept
Very much. Any questions or comments? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Just a comment. It's not easy for someone to resign from a board. I've had to do it, and several other council members here have to do it. I would hope that instead of focusing on the resignation, the board would focus on what to do to encourage people to attend and to have an open mind. Thank you.
All right. I will call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we will move in camera. A motion. I guess, do I move to, not sure the procedure here.
I think
I'll move
realistically anyone could if you want to just move them.
I'll move us in camera for agenda item 10, disclosure harmful to intergovernmental relations, Reed Township Road 240. Carried. I'll call this meeting back to order. Thanks, everyone. So we had come out of camera at 12:01. You've got that recorded. So we're back into regular council meeting. We are on agenda 8.4.1. That's the transportation and agriculture report.
This call is being recorded.
Good afternoon, Council. Brad Bullock presenting the June 2025 Transportation and Agriculture Department report. The report begins on page 302 of the agenda, and I am here to answer any questions included in that report. Just one minor correction, though. I just wanted to point out on page 302, under the Township 250 reconstruction, the phase 2 and phase 3 extents in that first paragraph should be flipped. So phase 2 is phase 3 and phase 3 is phase 2 in that paragraph.
Thank you, Brad. Any questions or comments? Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Thank you. I attended an event in Muirfield on July 6th, and a lot of people came up and were talking to me about the construction in the area And I just wanted to forward to staff that the contractor's been very good working with everybody because there's a lot of replacements in the driveways and whatnot. And they're people wanted me to let everybody know that it was being very well done. So I just wanted to forward that information to you guys. And I'll make the motion that council accepts the June 2025 Transportation and Agricultural Department report as information.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any other comments or discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Brad. Next is ASB Summer Tour Letters of Collaboration. Hi, George.
Good afternoon, Council. Through the chair, this is George Bloom from Administration talking about the ASB Summer Tour Letters of Collaboration. On June 18th, we held a ASB Summer Tour Committee meeting, and the following resolutions were passed to direct administration to write a couple of letters, which were attached to this report, and we wanted to make sure Council had a chance to review them before we send them out and make sure they're acceptable. I'm here for any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments? I thought the letters were very well done. Yeah. Anything else? Councilor Bigger?
I move that council direct administration to send the invitation letters attached to this report to the appropriate organizations and dignitaries regarding the ASB summer tour scheduled for July 2026.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Councillor Larson.
Just wondering, George, should we have some kind of deadline on your RSVP? It just says at your earliest convenience, but at some point in time, you're going to want to know to do planning. So just a thought.
Just the thought through the chair was to get this out, to give them as much planning potential as possible. And I would think with our dignitaries that we would probably make some allowances if they wanted to come in early. I think we'd be a little bit flexible with that group, because I wonder if some of them may only come for a portion of a day or something. So it shouldn't, the planning of the event shouldn't be hindered by dignitaries coming. I wouldn't think so. Regarding the registration package for the overall people, usually we close out that registration about 2 weeks before the event. So it does run, I've even heard some of those conferences, even a week before the event, they will close registrations. So it'll be tight.
Good. Any other discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? That is carried. Thanks very much, George. And last on our items is the funding tools for municipal services and infrastructure in existing communities. Brad?
Good afternoon again, Council. Brad Bullock presenting this report. So this report is kind of covers a few of the previous council resolutions, essentially all focused on looking at the county's policies in regards to, for the most part, funding new infrastructure within existing communities, and looking at developing a policy that outlines in general how the county wants to approach that when requests come up or when there is a potential need for new infrastructure in existing communities. So those resolutions, applicable resolutions are outlined on kind of at the bottom of page 326 of the report. One of the resolutions, 2022-1165, talks about looking into some of the county's past experience in funding such projects and how that was managed. So there is a table at the bottom of page 327 that outlines some of the county's prior notable projects starting in 2002, so about the last 20 to 25 years. And then in the furthest right column there, it outlines what the different funding splits were for each of those projects in general. At the time of writing the report for the WRC regional water line, obviously that was a multi-municipality project. We were actually looking into the exact numbers for that, and so I just put approximately 90% and 10%. What we found is the actual funding was, I think, about 93, 94% of senior government funding, and then about 6% with the 6 or 7% with the municipalities. So just a bit of a clarification. As far as, well, I guess on page 328, some of the legislative context just to be aware of in these situations is the municipalities' limitations on providing loans. And so this is always something that we're cognizant of when looking at providing infrastructure, where the county is providing infrastructure for individual communities, service connection fees, those kinds of things. And so we just have to be mindful that in these agreements and cost sharing agreements and cost contribution agreements and all of the things mentioned within the report, that we have to be careful that we're following the municipality's required loan guidelines. And so on page 328, it does outline the circumstances where municipalities can provide loans, which are quite limited. And the point being, the municipalities aren't here as organizations to provide loans to other entities, but there are some limited situations which are outlined there. So the first one, which is explored more in this report, is when the county is funding infrastructure, for example, that has the ability later on that if the loan goes unpaid, it can get transferred to the tax roll. So it protects the municipality. Some examples of that are the local improvement tax or utility connection fees. The other two examples are loans to municipally controlled corporations and then to nonprofit organizations, as long as that loan or the service being provided benefits the municipality. So the last 2 points aren't really explored in this report, but just for completeness, we provided that, and it's just something to always be mindful of when exploring the municipality funding infrastructure for a particular group. So moving on to page 329, one of the main things that council has requested that we do in those resolutions that were noted earlier is to develop a policy that council and administration can use that outlines the county's policies, procedures, guidelines for how the county wants to go about providing infrastructure, for example, within existing communities, and how that should get funded. And so as we start exploring this, we recognized the need, in order to go ahead and create a policy like this, we needed to kind of establish a fundamental guiding principle for that policy to base that policy on. And so we wanted to have this discussion with council to present what administration would recommend for that guiding principle, and get some feedback on that before writing that policy and bringing it back to council, just to get some initial feedback. And the main principle that is often used and is kind of riddled through the MGA and other legislation, and often used in municipalities in governing this type of funding, is the beneficiary pay model. And the nice thing about that model is it extends for everything. So just in a nutshell, when the benefiters of a particular piece of infrastructure or service offered by the municipality extend or substantially extend to the municipality as a whole, it's an appropriate time to fund that through general tax dollars. When it can be defined or determined that the beneficiaries of that infrastructure or service are isolated to a smaller defined group, whether that's an individual, a group of land, or parcels of land, or a smaller community, then municipalities generally look at, okay, rather than the whole municipality funding a service that only a distinct and definable number of ratepayers within the municipality have benefit to narrowing down that the service or infrastructure is actually funded by that specific group that actually benefits from it. So the beneficiary pay model kind of is scalable in that way. So it could be the whole of the municipality for services and infrastructure that benefit the whole municipality, or reasonably, and then it could be narrowed down to the specific group or individuals that benefit. So just in a nutshell, that's what that principle means. It also is reflected on page 330. There's some discussion about our current municipal development plan and how that principle is reflected in that municipal development plan for new developers or for developers coming in and developing infrastructure within the county. And again, it's the beneficiary pay or the developer pay model. If a developer comes in and they require infrastructure to set up their business or run their business, the expectation is that developer or business pays for the infrastructure that they require, or at least for the proportion of the infrastructure that they require. So we have that example right now with, say, the raw water line that the county is installing. The county is covering the construction cost as developers sign on and start using that line. The agreement would be that those developers then pay for their proportional share of the use of that line, whatever that percentage would be. And so you can oversize infrastructure as well. And then, of course, just have that individual or organization cover the cost of their proportional use. Moving on to page 331. And I think this is where that gets quite detailed in the various typical types of funding mechanisms that municipalities use. I'm not going to go through the whole report and all of the details, but just on page 331, they're summarized at a very high level. These are listed in terms of what is more relevant to the county. They're also listed in terms of broader to narrower. And so at the top, senior government grants, I put that at the top just because that is something that the administration and I know council, the county overall always seeks for capital projects to utilize that grant funding from senior government levels to minimize the impact and the burden on the local taxpayers. And then we move from general taxation down the list to where it would be more and more specific to the community or individual or group that is benefiting from the particular infrastructure in terms of the funding model used. And with that, I'll probably stop my presentation there rather than go into the details of every particular funding model. But just to conclude, pending any questions or discussion, that in terms of writing the pending policy that council's asked for, is our intention in writing that policy, pending any feedback, would be to use that beneficiary pay model in writing that policy in terms of how the county wants to go about funding infrastructure, that we would seek to use the most appropriate funding mechanism outlined on page 331 that would best follow that beneficiary pay model, as well as most appropriate to the actual circumstance. So while a local improvement tax may be more appropriate than utility rates or connection fees mechanisms in some situations, or a special tax might be more appropriate for services provided to a particular community where it's a little bit more of a broad base of tax. And so what we would look to do is embed that principle within that policy, and then also provide some guidelines in that policy in related to those funding mechanisms on page 331 of an outline when each of those mechanisms may be most appropriate to use as a guide, although each recognizing that each situation is unique and may require some judgments and some discussion of which funding mechanism is used. I think that concludes the bulk of my report without, again, trying to dive into the details of the report. It is very detailed, a lot of information there, and hopefully council found that useful, but I'm here for any questions.
Thank you very much. That was an excellent report. Any questions, comments? Councillor Larson.
Just a comment, really. I think it's very well done. I really like your approach to the funding models going down from senior government grants and all down. I think that's going to be a much more equitable way forward than what we have been traditionally doing. So good job.
Thank you for all this information. There's a lot here, and we've had this discussion many times, and I like that it's going to be into a policy and like a principle is what we're looking for. And the conclusion that administration has come to is basically where I was at the beginning of it, is it's because we're such a vast land area, for all taxpayers to pay for something in an area they have no access to, it never made sense to me. So I like the way this is going. And I can make the motion that's presented. Unless you want me to read it all out.
We're all here. I think we can see the motion. Well, I don't know. Yeah, you should read it, actually.
I move that council direct administration to draft an infrastructure funding policy guided by the accompanying report and council feedback, establishing principles for county initiated or owner requested infrastructure upgrades not addressed in municipal development plan or related processes.
Thank you very much. Any other discussion?
I have a question. Okay. So for connection fees. So if a developer pays for the line to put in to our specs, and then the customer or the owner pays for it to get to that connection, we shouldn't be paying, we shouldn't have to charge to have that water released to them, that connection fee. Because it's been no cost to us so far.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. The intention of the connection fee would be to pay for or recoup costs that were actually incurred by the municipality. Correct.
It doesn't quite lay that out in here, but it must be in the MG somewhere. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Well, yeah, it sounds like you have some consensus here that the user pay type system that it's not exactly what you've talked about. What do you call it? The
beneficiary pay.
Beneficiary pay. Thank you.
The concept's the same.
Pretty similar. Yes. Anyways, it sounds like we have consensus about that concept. I do recognize that sometimes it's difficult to see who the beneficiary is, sometimes. So that would, I mean, obviously, like you said, there would have to be some leeway, I guess, in, I mean, it's just a policy. So we would have to always look at who are the beneficiaries and how do you define that and that kind of thing. But yeah, no, I think it'll be a great thing for council to have. So thank you very much for all the work that went into this report as well. This council meeting, we've had some pretty fulsome reports and it's pretty impressive. So thank you for that. Councillor Larson.
There's a motion on the floor.
Yep. If there's any other discussion, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much.
I just want to say thank you for being able to chair this meeting. I wasn't able to attend the full thing and you did an excellent job.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Excellent. Well, then we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great afternoon.